Thank you, Globeflight, for getting this to me. I think it was literally 4 to 5 business days, all the way from Palabora to Johannesburg from a company called TorchSA. What we have in here is a knife that was ordered, and I'm going to do a very kind of rough review on this. My name is Vince May from On Point Protection Skills, or OPS as many people know it, and let's crack it open and see what we have. Okay, nice extra protection wrapping. So, the knife I'm going to be reviewing today is a Ganzo. Model number is the G704-GR Golf Romeo. Now, having a look at the website, they have an array of stuff on there. I was very particular with what I like, and I'm going to go through that. And the reason for this raw and rough review is because this is what I'm looking for if I just pop into a store. I've owned so many different knives, and I know what works for me, and hopefully some of these tips help you guys out as well. So let's crack her open here. I'm looking for an EDC knife. EDC, for those who don't know, everyday carry, something that I can use for multi-purposes. If I'm cutting a bit of rope, opening boxes, cutting thread for my food, right? That's what I'm using it for. Can I use it for combat? Hell yes. Look at that. Nice little pouch. I'm sure I'm going to find some other uses for that as well. Okay, so before I even open this blade, let me show you why I chose it. Just for my preference, my hand, when I close a full grip, you see this, it's still protruding off the edges there. Not a hell of a lot, but this is enough for a blunt edge or like say a blunt edge tool, as well as your force multiplier, right? This is just big enough for me. Why? Because I don't need it any bigger, because it's going to go in my pockets, right? I don't need a larger tool. I do have bigger knives, but like I say, this is something my EDC, it's my everyday carry. What else? The clip. It's a high clip. So if you can see from there, I have 2 knives. The difference here is, this is one of my kind of non-expensive blades that I got from Canada. Look at the difference in the clip. Okay, so you see the exposure of the handle. Now, this is, in my opinion, for your everyday guy, you know, businessman, just to carry around. You don't need a blade exposed. Not only that, the handle is very smooth. So, in order to deploy the knife out of my pocket, this one takes a little bit more work. And I know work sounds like a big word, but it does take a little more effort, whereas this one here that is already exposed, okay, plus the textured grip is way easier to pull out. Okay, now as I mentioned, textured grip, the reason why I chose this, when I looked on the website, it has a textured grip. I would like my Carter is my preference, but obviously way more expensive. But this textured grip here is actually really nice. With my hands as it is, dry as it is, it's got a really nice feel to it. Let's throw some water on there. Okay, so this is interesting. The wetter it is, there's actually more grip on there. Okay, so my hand is not slipping on that. Really like that. What else about this? The handle. Okay, right away I can tell you where the blade lock is, blade lock and blade release, which is actually on the grip itself. Okay, and there's a reason for that. Some people prefer the one that's inside the casing. We'll talk about that in a bit as well. So we've spoken about length, we've spoken about the texture of the grip, as well as the clip. How much exposure do you want of that handle? Let's crack her open and see what else I'm looking for. Instead of opening with 2 hands, what's the ease of it opening with 1 hand, with your thumb or your index finger, right? You've got your release pin here. So did take a bit of effort to open that up. Why? Because notice how the release switch is going to move there as you open. That obviously gives it a bit of friction. So this blade isn't just randomly going to open up. All right. So that's why it gives it a little bit of resistance. Once it's past a certain point, and that's almost, I would say, just a quarter, it's really easy to open the rest of the way. Now it's locked in place. Also, my fingers are nowhere near the release. Okay, it actually takes a little bit of extra effort to release this the lever in order for the knife to close, whereas sometimes your release is on the inside. I haven't seen anyone release it by accident, but hey, there could be a chance why, because your finger is right on the finger guard. Now that we're talking about finger guard, we haven't even touched the blade yet. I'm looking at this section here. Do I have a finger guard or not? That's really, really important. You've got the added texture plus the finger guard, so your finger doesn't slip forward. You've also got another finger guard for the top, for your thumb, right over there. Notice also, listen, or if you can see the ridges on there, that serrated area is called jimping. What is jimping for? So, like I said, because it's raised, it's also for your finger guard, but it's also for power, as well as if you're in the bush and you want to create a bit of tinder, right? That's where you get your power to scrape or sculpt. It's also more direct, right? Because where your thumb is pointing, that's where you're cutting as well. So there you go. That's just on the handle alone. Let's go to the blade now. My preference of a blade tip is a drop point. That's this design here. Very similar to my non-expensive one, your drop point. So also straight edge. Okay, why do I like a straight edge? Some people like the serrations in it. I found with the serrations, if you're trying to cut through material, that serration gets caught. It's not the proper application to cut through cotton, wools, things like that. So I like a straight edge. For me, the only time I use a serrated edge is if I'm out in the bush, because that's when you're cutting harder materials, using it as a saw. But for urban use, that's what I'm looking for. The blade is made of a tougher alloy 440C. So do I need to sharpen this that often? No. Really, again, it all depends what I'm using it for. This blade, I find I'm sharpening it every 3 weeks. I don't see myself sharpening this one. You can feel the quality of this blade. It's not a heavy blade, but just how it's put together. There's no loose pieces. The other thing I look for is there any play on that blade? And there's none. Obviously with time, you might get a bit of play, but right out of the box, it's a pretty sturdy blade. Now, just past the jimping or your finger guard, you have a flat surface there as well. What could you use that flat surface for? My opinion, that's if you need additional force. So let's say if you're cutting through wood or you're cutting through something a little harder, that would be where you would use an additional tool to knock onto. Okay. What else can I talk about this knife? How about the blade itself? So I'm going to tear a page out of here. It's just regular paper. So what I'm going to do is just a really light test, just no pressure. And I'm just going to slide the blade on that paper. How's that? Cuts right through without any pressure. Very easy, simple test to do. It's a nice sharp blade. What I've got here is a box with that holds bulbs. I've taken the lid off. Okay, this is obviously a lot thicker. You're going to have to apply a bit more pressure, but for yourselves, I'm no geek. I won't be able to tell you how many foot-pounds of pressure I'm putting on this, but very minimal, and it's cut right through. So right out of the box, this knife is really, really impressive. So Henry, thank you so much for recommending this knife. Definitely a good choice between the two of us. This is definitely going to be replacing my everyday EDC. Might have to gift this to someone. Still a good blade, but I'm really liking this. So guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Like I said, very rough, raw review. These are things that I personally look for in a blade. If you feel I've missed out on anything, please feel free to comment, ask questions, or fire off your questions to Henry Beeman at TorchSA. One thing I must say is their service is impeccable. And when I choose to buy things from people or support people, I look at the owners, I look at the kind of people they are and the kind of service they provide, as well as how they treat their staff. And TorchSA, this is definitely a company you want to reach out to and grab one of their flashlights or even one of their Ganzo blades. They've got an array. Have a look at them, torchsa.com. And guys, hope you enjoy the review. Vince from Ops, and I'm out.
You